In today's video, we're going over great quad exercises for folks with really aggravated knees. One problem that a lot of patients face, let's say that they have patellofemoral pain or patellar tendinopathy, or they may be post-op ACL reconstruction, doc is constantly telling them, you need to strengthen your quads, strengthen your quads, strengthen your quads. And if you have a really irritated knee, then anytime you try any quad exercise, like a knee extension machine, squat, lunge, step up, the knee just kills. So the problem ends up being that any quad exercise the patient tries, they really can't work their quad much because it just hurts too badly, okay? So what we're gonna focus on today are a few great quad exercises, usually very, very knee friendly for those folks that have highly irritable knees. So the first thing I wanna explain is using a band for a terminal knee extension. So when folks, when they do a squat, so go ahead and squat down for me. The deeper you go into a squat, the more stress goes on the knee. So folks have a very aggravated knee, they just can't handle deep degrees of knee flexion, right? So what happens is that we can't work the quad because we can't get low enough because it hurts too bad, right? Using a band around the knee is super helpful because when we descend down, let's say Nancy's knee hurts at about here, so we won't go any deeper, I'm not getting a ton of good quad work, but when I straighten up, so go ahead and extend, and then flex your quad at the top, you will work your quad just by trying to fight against this band, right? So we're getting a little bit of work on the quad by descending, not much, but we're getting a lot of work from the band when you extend. Now if we want to get more quad work, all we have to do is back up a little bit more, Nancy. Yep, let's do a few more. So a very slight knee bend, and then extend at the end, right? The other part is that this looks a lot like a heel tap exercise, although the right side leg is supporting. So when folks that are doing a heel tap, it's all your weight on one leg. Great quad exercise, usually not tolerated very well. We don't have to go to a full heel tap exercise. What we can do is we can load the left side a little bit more. So imagine Nancy's putting, let's say 60, 70% of her body weight on the left, 30 to 40% is on the right. We can get a little bit more load through the quad, and we're also getting the resistance from the band. So this is a great introductory exercise for folks that have knee pain that can't tolerate deep degrees of knee flexion. Front foot elevated terminal knee extension. The reason why I like this drill right here is because we have the opposite side legs supported, so it takes balance out of the equation. And just like with the double leg terminal knee extension, we can offload this backside leg by putting some weight towards the front side leg right through here. So essentially, Nancy's just gonna have her foot planted into the ground. She's gonna allow her knee to bend as far as she's able to tolerate, and then fully extend back. And after a few repetitions, Nancy will say her quad starts to burn quite a bit, right? So if we want a little bit more quad, and again, this really depends on how irritated your knee is, we can add a heel lift. So the heel lift or the slant board will just translate your weight anteriorly or forward, and it puts some more stress on the knee, so keep that in mind, but it also gets the quad working a little bit more. But I will find that folks that have a lot of knee irritation, this is generally pretty well tolerated and decent one to start with. Assisted sissy squat with terminal knee extension. Here's another great exercise in folks that have aggravated knees. One of the reasons why this is really nice on knees is because you have a little bit of support, so we're offloading the weight of your body slightly by putting some weight through the sled here, right? We have two bands attached behind the knees, so you have the terminal knee extension to add some extra quads. And what Nancy's going to do is just reach her knees forward and extend back fully. And having the band will give you a nice burn within the quads. How's that feel, Nancy?
Burning.
All right, excellent. In folks that have knee pain, usually they're load intolerant. Now this is a problem because if we want to build strength and hypertrophy, typically we want to have 80% plus of our 1 rep max, at least from a strength perspective. And that's a problem because most folks can't get to 80% of the 1 rep max, the knee hurts too much. One way you can still build some strength and hypertrophy at a very similar rate to regular strength training is through blood flow restriction training. So Nancy right here is wearing blood flow restriction straps, and essentially we pump these up and we exercise while we're doing the BFR. So basically we're just gonna have Nancy perform regular exercises with 20% of her 1 rep max. And generally speaking, we do high repetitions. So your first set, 30, second set, 15, and then 15, and then 15 with 20% of your max. Usually very well tolerated just because the loads are very low, right? So one good exercise to do BFR with is a traditional squat. So what we can do is just elevate the height. So let's have Nancy do a few repetitions here. So we're not necessarily squatting to full depth because it may hurt for your patients. So largely we can keep them in the range that feels good and just rep out here. And the quads do get a lot of work despite it being very low load. We can also use a nice low box step up. So essentially this is not a very tall box, and we actually have a platform right here that Nancy's standing on, and that's going to decrease the height of the box. The higher the box, the more stress on the knee. So we're keeping it relatively low so it's tolerable for Nancy. The other thing we're adding is a TRX assistance. So Nancy can help as much or as little as she needs to. So let's go ahead and have you do a few repetitions. Very good. And again, we're using high reps, so around 30 for your first set. So we get quite a bit of work for the quads despite it not being a super challenging movement. We can also do the same thing with a split squat. So we have Nancy, feet glued in place, and from here she's just going to go up and down. Yep, performing your split squat. Now we make this movement a little bit easier on the knees by adding 2 AirX pads, so we don't have to go into such deep degrees of knee flexion. If you have a patient that's particularly painful, we can always go up a little bit higher, or if they're feeling pretty good, we can go a little bit lower. So knee extensions are obviously a great way to target the quads. Oftentimes they're a little bit irritating in folks with a lot of knee pain simply because it just puts a bunch of stress through the knee. Stress isn't always bad, but if you have someone who can't tolerate it, then knee extensions are often one of the first exercises they cross off the list, right? However, with blood flow restriction training, keep in mind we only have to use 20% of our 1 rep max. And I also like to go nice and slow with these, so let's have Nancy do a few repetitions. Slow and controlled, big flex at the top, slow on the way down. So if we have decreased load, we go nice and slow, makes it a lot easier for the knee. So with BFR, knee extensions can actually be quite tolerable and a great way to build the quads. So there you go, guys. Some really good exercises for the quads in folks with highly irritated knees. That's it for this video, but it's not it for the learning. If you guys want to learn some more, I have another great exercise video about knee pain. Check it out.